Hey guys, welcome to my Torah tourist video. Zadok, what are you doing? And before I get started, I did want to do a couple of disclaimers and kind of PSA, if you will. Number one, I just want to say that I reserve the right to be wrong. This video is my opinion, and it may not line up with everyone's opinion, and that's okay. And the second thing is I also reserve the right to change my mind because I find out that I was wrong about something. I'm sure many people in the Torah community can tell you that there have been many things that we had to unlearn from the Western mindset, and then we might not have learned it quite right, so we had to relearn it again. There's a lot of unlearning, relearning, and then relearning going on. And we won't ever really have it until the return of Yeshua. So I reserve the right to be wrong, and I reserve the right to come back later and say, hey, I was wrong. So with that said, let's get started. I'm going to start out by reading in 1 Corinthians 13, starting in verse 1. If I speak with the tongues of men and of messengers, but do not have love, I have become as sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophecy and know all secrets and all knowledge, and if I have all belief, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am none at all. And if I give out all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but do not have love, I am not profited at all. Love is patient, is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast, is not puffed up, does not behave indecently, does not seek its own, is not provoked, reckons not the evil, does not rejoice over the unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It covers all, believes all, expects all, endures all. Okay, so after reading that, we're going to get started. I am in our what used to be master bedroom that's renovated. There's a little bit of an echo, but it's super humid here in Texas right now. Ooh. And so I'm going to be inside. So I'm going to try and stay organized with my thoughts because I've already filmed this a couple of times, but I'm like all over the place. So I'm going to try this again, and I'm going to try and stay organized this time. So the first thing that I want to talk about with don't be a Torah terrorist is timing. And there's several avenues that I want to discuss. But the first one is I want to discuss how we all come to the truth at a different time. If you ask anybody that you know who has started to search out Torah and has started to try and keep the feasts and do all of that, and you ask them how old they were when they did it or what year it was that they started searching, you're not going to find that everybody did it at the same time because timing is different for everybody. And I think that's something that we kind of lose sight on. Like, oh, well, this is when we came to the truth, so why isn't everybody around me coming to the truth? Why doesn't my family want to know this? Why do they think I'm crazy? Why do my friends not want to search this stuff out, like I did? And maybe it isn't the right time for them yet. It isn't us that draws them. It isn't us who reveals the truth to them. Hold on. Sorry, there was something weird out the window. Anyways, it's not us, and I'm going to insert a scripture right here. John chapter 6, verse 44 and 45. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by Yahweh. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. So as much as we think oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell them about how Christmas is pagan, and they're going to be like, what? And then they're going to be like, we're never doing this again. We're going to burn our tree. It's probably not going to happen like that. Because I mean, honestly, how would you have reacted if that's how someone approached you about what you had been doing your whole life, what you had grown up doing, what you went to church knowing, what, like, all the traditions that you had been taught? What if instead of you getting to research these things and chew on them and ruminate over them and search the word for them and take your time to get to know all of these incredible truths, what if instead someone just came and slapping you in the face and calling you pagan? I mean, would that, honestly, would that have pushed you closer, like pushed you more into wanting to know the truth, or would it have pushed you in a place of wanting to justify why you're doing what you're doing? So I would just like to submit, be patient with your friends and family because of timing. Our timing is different, and we cannot expect that because this is the time that we started searching it out, that automatically means that every single person who knows us, it's their time too, because it might not be. It might not be the right time for them, but that does not mean that that time isn't going to come. So what should you do instead? I know I'm talking a lot about timing. What should we do in the meantime? Number one, pray for them. Pray for them, pray for wisdom, pray for the right time to discuss things with them. Pray for a soft heart so that when you do discuss things with them, that they're open to it. Pray that He would give you the right words to say to them so that, it's a clear, concise, and a loving approach, and not coming from a position of accusation and aggressiveness. That happens so much, just from people being so zealous about learning the truth that they go in aggressively, and they go in with a lack of love, with a lack of patience. And honestly, the best way to witness is for them to see you walking the walk and doing it in love. If you are, moving away from the occultic holidays, that's amazing. If you're moving into the feast days, maybe even try the approach of being like, hey, like when they start talking about this or about Easter, be like, hey, so we're gonna do Passover for the first time this year. We're super excited about it. We've been reading, and we found out some really cool tidbits while reading. Like the disciples kept doing Passover even after Jesus died, Yeshua died, because it's done in remembrance of the sacrifice that He made for us, because He's the Passover lamb. You just make the Father's holidays so exciting. You take the focus off of the man-made holidays. And His holidays, they should be exciting to us. They should be. That's where our focus should be. So, and as far as, and I feel like I'm kind of straying from the timing thing, but I'm going to tag this onto the timing thing, and then I'm going to move on to the next part. And I think this is a hard one for a lot of us. As far as, do I still go to my family's house when they're doing, Easter? Or do I still go to my family's house when they're doing Christmas? Or whatever other holiday? I think that's something you need to pray about. I think it also has to do with the family member. So I'll give an example. I have family who are very tight-knit. Family getting together and putting forth the effort to spend time with each other is a really, really big deal to them. And I didn't take that into consideration enough when we had decided to start not doing the holidays, the regular holidays. And I caused a lot of hurt in that area. Whereas now what we do, instead of just not showing up to the family gathering in December, is we just say, hey, we're not going to do the gift exchange, but we're going to come have dinner with everybody and spend time with you guys because we love you guys so much, and I think that means a lot to them. And I have family on another side that they get it that we don't do Christmas, and they really just don't care we come to the gathering or not. It's like not a big deal to them, you know. So I think you have to kind of judge it on the family members in particular, and you know, leave it. Pray about it. Let Abba convict you on what He's wanting you to do. If He's not wanting you to go and be part of it at all, or if you going but maybe not partaking in the pagan aspects of it, but just spending time as family and loving on them is okay. For us personally, you know, that side of the family doesn't even do Easter anymore. It's amazing. They started searching out the truth, and they started finding out things about the roots to where things like egg dyeing came from, and you know, it clicked with them. Y'all revealed it to them. And you know what? That was something that that Heath and I had decided not to do like five years prior. But that wasn't their timing. Their timing was now. Now was when, you know, it clicked with them. I'm so thankful for that. It's just really amazing. And that just goes to show how it's not us who draws them. So as far as doing the holidays with your family, pray about it. I am not condoning having your kids go and do an Easter egg hunt, but what we would do is we would show up late. We would tell them why. We would say, hey, we're not going to do the Easter egg hunt, but we'll be there for lunch after. Just let us know what time y'all are planning to do the Easter egg hunt. And what I would do is I would grab my kids like some candy or something so that they weren't like watching all their cousins eating that. Now, I know there might be some of you who don't agree with us going and even being with family on that day. And if that's your conviction, then that's your conviction. I, for one, I'm glad that we did, because those very same people are no longer doing Easter, and they did Passover this year. So I had to grow in the area of learning how to love on family while following our convictions with the holidays and stuff. Look at, any one of our lives, look at some of the things that we have had to grow out of, He's had so much patience with all of us about learning His ways. None of us just like jumped in one day and was like, I now know how to do every single feast perfectly. You know, I don't even know every single commandment in the Torah. People are trying, they're doing their best, you know. I'm gonna wrap up the timing thing. Main thing I'd like you to take away is just because it's your time doesn't mean it's their time. We do have to come to terms with it. There will be those who never get it. We will have family members who are atheists, and they may never turn to Him. You know what I mean? But we should continue to pray for them every day, forever. I need to be better about that. So, okay, now I want to move on to the next thing, and that would be the Hebrew roots cliques. So, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. One of the things that I got a little deceived on when we started our kind of walking out of churchianity and walking into, trying to learn what we were supposed to be doing. And I'm going to give one of the examples of the cliques, and that is the sacred name movement. Now, if you have bells going off, like, you don't think His name is important, that's not what I'm saying. I do think His name is important. His word says to call upon His name. You need to know His name to do that. God's not His name. I'm not saying you shouldn't call Him God. I'm just saying God's not His name. It's a title. That's the really cool thing about the Scriptures Bible. They restored His name in all the places that it was taken out. So, we need to know His name to be able to call on His name. Anyways, but in the sacred name movement, as far as I know, they kind of have this vibe of, if you don't call Him by the right name, then you're not saved. And they use the verse that says, "No, in no other name shall man be saved," or I'm paraphrasing. And I would like to tell you a true story, and it's kind of a real world example of why I don't think that's true. I'm not the verse, obviously the verse is true, but what they're saying and what they're using it for. 20 years ago, wow, it's more than that now. I just realized that I that would only make me 31, I'm 33. I was diagnosed with epilepsy. They didn't know what was wrong with me, and they were going to put me on a medication that would have potentially destroyed my liver. And then when my mom didn't want to do that because of my liver, she asked about another drug, and they basically told her that they'd have to monitor my kidneys with that one because that one could mess with your kidneys. So my mom had been involved with a deliverance ministry called Be in Health, and they did a lot of research on spiritual roots to disease. So my mom took me to one of their conferences, and the pastor was busy because he was ministering to someone else, and his wife came up to minister to me. And my mom explained to her what was going on, and she's like, oh, that's easy. It's just a deaf and dumb spirit. And, you know, I'm going to insert the verse now that talks about Yeshua casting out the deaf and dumb spirit.
Mark chapter 9, verse 25. And when Yeshua saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to him, You deaf and dumb spirit, I order you, come out of him, and never enter into him.
She just looked me straight in the eyes, and she said, Deaf and dumb spirit, book it in the name of Jesus. That was when I was 11. I'm 33 years old, and I've never had a seizure again. And what name did she use? She used the name Jesus. So the sacred name movement, I think, almost makes people afraid to be able to converse with their friends and family and use the name that their friends and family are used to. If you go up to somebody and you're like, Yahuwah, da-da-da-da-da, or Yahweh, or Yahovah, there's a lot of different pronunciation ideas. They may not know who you're talking about, but if you say, you know, I just want you to know that God really loves you, like, they know who you're talking about. Now, that's not to say that using his name, like I said, isn't important, but it is okay to speak to people in the terms that they understand. You know, Abba knows who you're talking about. And if the demons flee, even at the name of Jesus, then you can't tell me that it's not okay for you to discuss or witness to somebody, or even talk to them about the fact that Jesus was an Israelite. He walked out Torah perfectly. It's okay for you to talk to them about it. And you know, there may be some people on the Sacred Name movement who might try to say like, oh, well, that was just a demon casting out a demon. Well, what did Yeshua say to the Pharisees when they said that?
Matthew chapter 12, verse 25 through 28. And Yeshua knew their thoughts and said to them, Every reign divided against itself is laid waste, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then does his reign stand? And if I, by Beelzebub, do cast out demons, by whom do your sons cast them out? Because of this they shall be your judges. But if I cast out demons by the Spirit of Elohim, then the reign of Elohim has come upon you.
A kingdom divided against itself shall fall. So I think that's a really great real world example, just to show like it's okay for you to talk to your friends and family and not get caught up in all the vernacular that you learn once you come into the Torah. And it's great, you know, you start learning all these words like shalom and mitzvah and all these things, and challah bread and all of that, but you know, not everybody is going to know what you're talking about, you know. So it's just another area that we can grow in, and we kind of have to feel the waters with our friends and family and see how to approach things. So that's just one example of kind of the pitfalls of when you come into Torah. Like, we have to be on guard just as much as we do in mainstream like Christianity. We have to kind of sift through what they're saying in the lens of the Word. We have to do the exact same thing in the Torah community. Hold on a second. I love you. Love you too. So yeah, okay. So we've talked about timing. We've talked about the kind of pitfalls that we can fall into when we when we come into the Torah movement, that can actually affect the way that we treat our family and friends. The last thing I want to talk about is being offended. We live in a world where everybody is offended all the time. It's super annoying. It's kind of a given that there will be people who get offended that you don't partake in the Easter egg hunt anymore, or that you're not wanting to eat certain foods anymore. That's a given. But what I would like to submit to you is to not be offended when they get offended. Something that I think happens, at least for me, it did. There's a little bit of the temptation to get kind of puffed up when you start to come into the truth of these things, because you're like, well, I know the truth and you don't. You know what I mean? We have to be really careful about that. So when they get offended, as long as you're approaching them with love and you're praying and asking the Father to give you the right words to say, the right moment to say it, and you're doing all those things, and they're still getting offended, it's not you that's offending them. It may even be just the truth that's offending them. So don't get offended at them being offended. Just realize that this is a lot for them to take on. The enemy's probably accusing you in their mind. And continue to do your best to walk in love with them, to be gentle and patient, and watch out for timing, and don't get offended. I hope this was somewhat helpful. And if you have any comments or experiences or praise reports about family who's maybe coming around, or I just heard a praise report the other day during our Bible study. One of the women on there, her family had started to keep Torah. They stopped eating unclean meats and stuff like that, and she was saying that she hadn't really had that discussion with her sister yet. The sister had called and invited her to go to their Easter Sunday gathering, and she said, "Are you going to have anything other than ham there? If not, then I'll just bring something." And then her sister was like, "Oh, you're not eating that anymore." She's like, "Let me check in my freezer." And her sister was totally cool with it. And if you notice, she didn't say "Well, let me just give you the history on ham and where it comes from and Nimrod and all the things." No, she just simply said "Hey, is there going to be anything else there?" What a gentle approach. I had a family member recently, because this was our first year to not have the family Easter egg hunt on one side of my family. And there was our group text, and somebody asked about the Easter egg hunts, and my sister-in-law so awesomely handled it. She was just I'm really not feeling messing with that this year. And everybody was cool with it, and it was, I just thought it was such a gentle way, because it might not have been the right time to discuss that. I thought it was such a gentle way of getting out of doing that and waiting for the right moment to discuss things, So timing, again. All right, I'm gonna go now. I hope this helped you guys. Shalom.